The reason I'm so interested in intuition as adults right now, especially right now in this moment in time, is because right before we came, my son, who's 5, went to a class on intuition. It was like a weekend class, like 3-4 hours a day kind of a thing. I got a video from this class. And on this video, what happens, he's blindfolded and they hand him a card. Now, he doesn't know what card it is. The kid who's handing him the card doesn't know what card it is. And he touches the card and he goes, brown, claws, bear. And lo and behold, it's a bear who's brown with claws. I was like, oh, that's, I wasn't there. It's probably not true, right? So he comes into Thailand and we are hanging out one morning and I'm like, all right, you got to do this, right? And I'm going to see if you actually can do this. Let's do it. Like, do the whole thing. Right? I want to just see it. And again, same thing. We hand him a card, touches the card, goes lion. And we go, oh, there's no lion on this one. We flip the card on the other side and behold, there's lion. Then we give him another card and now he's guessing both sides. And I'm like, what is happening? And we know he's blindfolded. He has no idea what card. He would tell the animal. He'll tell the color of the animal. And it's just so amazing. And I was like, we all have it. We all had it. And then somehow we forgot about it.
Well, I have a whole bunch of responses to that. First, brilliant son. Great teacher for the family, because the truth is we do all have it. But what's different between you and your son is that the majority of people don't have it because they were educated out of it. We were educated to give up our own unique experience and instead read what was expected of the authority figures that were educating us and our intuition kind of went to what do they want? What do they want? Not what I'm actually feeling. So it's his class reinforcing from the family and from you to go to the direct experience, so it works perfectly. Mm-hmm. So what we need now to recognize is that we have inner senses, just as dynamic as our external, if anything, even more dynamic than our external senses, because they're vulnerable to being damaged or being reduced. But your inner senses are not. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I truly believe is that the children coming in that are being born are very high souls. They're very aware. I was even having this conversation an hour and a half ago that it's a collective consciousness that they're sharing, that they're going to be wide awake and they're going to pick up energy. And that energy communicates through our other senses. Energy that's brown communicates through our visual sense. Energy through an image, and we can maybe even feel claws. We're borrowing, and their inner and outer senses work together. We can't, to be intuitive, just use our inner senses. We have to use both. Pay attention to the world around us, bring in the inner responses, merge them, and come up with perceptions that are guiding us. And then the other thing that is happening, and I think that our kids are going to help people who've lost their intuition, is what do we use it for? Now, say, for example, I've been doing intuitive coaching and readings for over 50 years. I started very young. It was my family way, but I studied, why do people come? What causes people to come to someone like me, especially less common. Now it's very common, but when I was the beginning, I was way out in the Wild West. And it's because life was unpredictable. They were meeting in a moment in life that a change was coming up and it made them uncomfortable. They wanted insight that their ordinary logic, brain, and senses couldn't provide. Jobs changing, health changing, relationships changing. Something happened, I need to know, which is why they would come. Well, our world has been, until COVID, pretty predictable. And all of a sudden, it's a free-for-all. We thought COVID would settle and we go back, and instead it's worse. So now everybody is recognizing, I need my inner senses because nothing's predictable. So it's spontaneously kicking us back in because it's necessary for survival. So that's why this point in time is so, it's a zeitgeist, it's a flip. And it's all of a sudden, the conversation of intuition is no longer does it exist. It is accelerated to, I got to get this working now. And the good news is, you're hardwired. So it's simply a matter of changing a few misperceptions, wrong beliefs, a bit of conditioning, and to be present. And it'll start working for all of us, just like it works beautifully for your son.
Beautiful. So let's turn it in a little bit more for an adult that's listening, right? And like you mentioned, it was talked out of us or taught out of us, or however we want to say it. If I am a grown adult listening to this conversation, I may be asking myself, what does intuition even mean? Like, from a really, a fundamental perspective. I mean, the brown and brown bear sounds a little bit like magic.
Well, only because you've been conditioned to believe that only your eyes can give you that kind of information. Where in fact, quantum physics is now teaching us that everything is vibration, and what we see, hear, sense only appears that way. It's all happening internally. So when you think about intuition, we have to reorganize our understanding of our own physiology and our own physics, our own universal understanding of things, because what we were taught and what was really deeply impressed upon us is inaccurate. And one of my favorite examples of intuition and how to bring it back online was, I was studying a course in international communications a few years ago during COVID, just to entertain myself. And in that course, I had to watch a video on a man who was blind. But science figured out how to restore his sight with some corneal issue. And they did. But he had to learn to see. Just because his eyes worked, his brain didn't work. So he couldn't see until it took a year to train him to use his eyes to see. It was all internal. And I thought, that is the same with intuition. Our senses work, but we have to train ourselves to begin to perceive and use and understand how they are communicating to us. And it's not a matter of magic. It's a matter of recognizing we don't live in just a physical, limited universe. We live in an energetic field. And our intuition is our inner senses and the capacity for them to perceive energy off the range of what our physical senses can perceive. So our physical senses, to me, are like an AM radio. They can pick up a certain bandwidth, a frequency, and our inner senses are like satellite. They just can pick up a far wider band. Truly, my experience is I have not met anyone not intuitive. They choose to ignore it. Like the man who his brain couldn't assimilate that he could see. And our education and our influences they've programmed us not to assimilate what we're actually experiencing. So really, to bring us back online with our intuition, we have to challenge our assumptions. That gut feeling is an actual experience. I am actually feeling an incongruent vibration to my own purpose, intentions, and well-being. That's why I get the bad vibe. But it's not a metaphor. It is an interception of actual energy. But now we have to learn, this is part of who I am. This is not magic. This is not gifted. This is my inner sense functioning. And what has to happen is my conscious mind has to agree to use it. So that's what it is.
So if somebody is currently kind of going, okay, so I'm intuitive, like Sonia says, what are the signs I'm looking for to kind of lean into, if I may call them that?
Well, it is a compass, and it will work with intention and goal. So if you are an unintentional, unfocused, no goals in life, that compass is swinging around and will be as effective as if you're spinning around wandering around the woods with no place to go. So it has to be given a direction. If you have a direction, if that direction is, first start with your basic priorities. I want my compass to constantly inform my basic priorities. I want to be safe. Maybe that's my one priority. My family's safe. I want to be a person who's free to do my own thing, free to be my own, free to create my own life, my own business. Well, okay, that compass will keep guiding and directing you to those frequencies that support that. I need people who tell me the truth. So it will alert you if you're not hearing frequencies that align with what you perceive as truth in conversation. So when you know it's important to you, that's the first thing that kicks the intuitive faculties into place. But it works the same with your outer senses. Have you ever wandered through a store and you had nothing in mind? You were just there. You didn't notice a thing really. But if you're going in to buy a pair of shoes, you're looking at everyone. It works the same way. So first, it'll serve your intentions. Secondly, it'll serve your priorities, and then it'll serve your intentions. The other thing that it will serve initially is your safety. Survival is our strongest instinct. So when people do, for example, have a random awareness of their intuition, it's usually associated with some warning. If they're generally checked out, it'll usually be, oh, I had a bad vibe about that guy. I don't know, we shouldn't go there. I don't want to buy that house. Something's off. That's a protective instinct. Then we also have to really get our heads out of our phones and checked out, because it is a perception of actual energy happening in the body. So if we are checked out, not paying attention, which a lot of people are, we will miss it. And I was sharing this story recently. I travel frequently between London and Paris. I was sitting in the London Eurostar station, thousands of people there because there's many trains going. And this guy was sitting next to me, and he was on his phone, just about the same proximity as you and I. And 3 times, very loudly, an announcement, train to Brussels. 3 times. And a stampede of people get up and move to get their train.
Yep.
He's on his phone. He looks up after 15 minutes later. They're gone. Train's gone. He's like, where's my train? Oh my God, who didn't tell me my train? And he freaked out. He missed this whole experience. Now you can say to yourself, oh, what an idiot. But you know what? That is common. That is common. That is how checked out we are with our electronics. And you're not going to be intuitive. Part of the reason I think I'm so intuitive is because I had none of that. We didn't have we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have computers, we didn't have fax machines, I had nothing. And we were thrown out in the streets as kids, go play all day, come home alive, don't get in trouble. So it was constantly being present and aware. So as a person today, if you want to be an empowered, creative person, you really do need to check back in, because one of the first elements of intuition, just like when you were sharing that story with your son, he was paying attention. He was noticing what was actually right in front of him. His full awareness, not his eyesight, but his inner sight, was tuning in completely, dialing in. And that's a faculty, that is an aspect of intuition that is not negotiable.
Beautiful. So would you say, because just you said it in passing, so I wanted to kind of anchor it if that was true, but would you say intuition is enhanced presence in a way? Because you're so present to what is.
It's initiated with enhanced presence. But it's a satellite. It can go way into non-localized energy. So it's not just what's right here, but the whole frequency, just like radio waves. It just, even the whole, if you even think of a computer and someone developing that, I think they took it off the model of our intuitive abilities. To even come up with that is like how we are actually designed. We can go way out and pick up energy anywhere if it's important to you, just like searching on a computer. We're not supposed to be intuitive about everything. It would be a sensory overload. Just what's important to us, our goals. And the more you're intentional, the more focused, the more non-resistant, the more you are completely receptive to, I will be given the information. It'll be a gut feeling. It'll be in my heart. It'll be maybe on my skin, be the hairs on the back of my neck. It'll be just a general indication. It'll be a dream, but that energy is going to match my intentions. And it'll also alert massive incongruencies.
Mm-hmm. So focusing would be the first thing. Focus on something. Let's get started with that. And then as you focus on something, then you are tuning into your other senses, seeing what the sign that your body is giving or your higher self is giving you.
There is an actual process that I have developed to get that intuition going. First, be present. And by that I mean start using your outer senses. How many times have you actually looked at something but didn't see you didn't see anything, or someone's talking to you and you completely didn't hear them, or you're running around going, where are my keys? And they're in your hand. You know, it's like we are not present.
Yeah.
So use your senses and start going, what am I seeing right now? What am I hearing right now? Because where we are is preoccupied with our own thought loops. We're not being available to what's here. We're on a loop. There's not even that many thoughts going on. It's the same one over and over. So this pulls you out. And what I do, I have a tool that's just real easy. Just take a breath in through the nose, blow out like you are blowing out candles twice. And with that, intend to empty everything your mind is holding on to. Then breathe in again, up from the feet. Open your jaw wide. And you can feel a whole opening going all the way down. Can you feel that? And then sigh into your heart. Ah. Now you're in your body. Then open up. And I always say, what's the most beautiful thing you see? Because your fearful mind is always tracking for threat. And we tune out everything else. So what's the most beautiful thing you see? Then once you see that, then you actually can see where you are. What are you hearing? What are you listening to? We're so preoccupied with our inner voice, we don't hear. There's birds. There's traffic. There's kids playing. There's a barking dog. What are you smelling? It's like a psychic sit-up. Just work through it. Then, what are you willing to know or be guided on that you have no resistance to? My observation is the biggest block to intuition is we don't want to know. You tell me I have a new business and I have an intuition that you're on the wrong track. You don't want to know. You're just dating someone brand new you're very excited about, but they really have all nefarious intentions. You don't want to know. So that's the second block. Is like, do you want to know? Because it invites change. It invites awareness. It invites self-responsibility. It invites maybe a different choice. Do you want to know? So, for example, what do you want to know? Where would intuition be interesting for you?
Right now?
In your life, right now, anywhere.
So I find myself. So my next question was going to be around how do you know what's the difference between intuition and rational thinking, if I may call it that? Because I feel I am intuitive. I don't know if I don't want to really, I'm kind of concerned about using the word because I don't want to mislabel it in any way, but I almost listen to my heart pretty much for everything.
Well, I find, actually, your heart is 5,000 times more sensitive than your brain. So I would listen to my heart. That's a scientific advice. It picks up 5,000 times more energy than the brain.
Yeah.
It is an organ that communicates. It is an energetic part of your anatomy that communicates, as does your gut. So the hesitation is your education. It's not your natural self. Like I'm not sure that's your education. But we have to dial into where would this be useful, because it does involve paying attention. So when you're in your work with your heart, does it have to fight to get your attention, or do you tend to just put it through the ringer but listen to it in the end?
I would say I put it through the ringer mostly because I'm trying to also make sense of why some of those things that are coming through me may not intellectually make any sense. It's like, why would you do that? Like, it's working. You know, so when something is, say, working, you would be like, why would you change that? But it's almost like that I get this feeling which feels a force that is beyond intellect.
Yeah,
You know,
intellect
I may
is
not
your...
rationally prove it, but it feels like this is the direction. So it feels like it's not
Exactly,
logical.
that's the right language.
Yeah.
Because your left brain is your intellectual brain, only can pick up so much. And your right brain goes beyond that range and starts to communicate feeling and energy and ideas and inspiration. Logic is more local and backward. Your left brain, your logic brain, is only pulling from what you learned yesterday or 20 years ago. So you're going through the Rolodex of the left brain trying to look for evidence of an energy coming at you this way that you've never encountered before. So there is limitation to our left brain. But the bigger mistake is to think that the left brain and the right brain, your logic and your intuition, are enemies. They're partners. They are, in fact, in my very first book that I wrote, The Psychic Pathway, that I wrote in 1995, I wrote, the best intuition is based on a foundation of actual good information. So get the facts, but the facts, not someone's opinion you learned in 4th grade. Get the actual information, and then intuition takes off with it. So that's why I say use your senses, study what is so, and actually have a technique that I call what is so, the what is so reading. What is actually happening? Then where do we want to go with this? Then that's when your intuition will partner. They're not competing, but if your logic says that the only thing we can deal with is what I see, then you're working with a limited bandwidth, assumptions that your senses are working accurately when they aren't, because you're not really listening, you're not really paying attention as you believe you are. Most of us are pretty checked out. You're working from the background, and you say, okay, if this limited perception doesn't validate what I'm feeling, I'm going to throw it out. That's absurd. It's like what you're feeling is what's happening right now. This energy coming at you right now overrides all that sloppy awareness and dated assumption. So it's actually about being grounded in paying attention to what is happening right now. What are the intentions? Where is this energy going? Acknowledging it. And then the other thing is, you don't have to listen. The other big obstacle to intuition is we have big egos that want to just be in control. So they're going to block it. I didn't give you permission to listen to that. That doesn't fit your identity. Your identity has to be in control. So if it doesn't fit into my identity as a person in control, that threatens my ego. So I'm going to ignore my wisdom. And that's, Einstein said it best. He said, the human spirit is your sacred gift, and the rational mind its faithful servant. But sadly, we've thrown away the gift, and we're enslaved to the servant.
Yeah.
So the obstacles to intuition are interesting to me because your intuition's functioning just fine, as your son demonstrated.
Yeah.
Look at all this stuff you put in the way and complicate it and really compromise yourself when you can be so brilliantly informed in the moment.
Yeah, and to relay on that example and kind of also ask a secondary question is, so he was doing all this activity and we were doing all these things, and one of the things that he also gets to do with this intuitive ability is he gets, without knowing what picture he's going to get, he gets a paper with one side colored and one side's just empty, and he gets a bunch of colors just thrown on the side. I mean, I saw him do this as well. And what he would do is, let's say it is a photo of an ice cream, he would pick a color and color the same segment with the same color without actually looking at the original.
It's a vibrational match.
It's a vibrational match. And the reason why I tell this is because he's doing it and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. We're not allowed to speak when he's doing this, so we're just listening, we're just seeing him do it. I'm kind of telling my wife, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yes.
He's crushing, like, wow, this is, because he's getting the box right, which is almost impossible from my point of view.
From the logic view, which says unless you visually see it, you can't know it, but he can feel the vibrational match.
Yeah, he could feel the vibrational match. And I almost saw what blocks it, or not almost, I mean, I kind of see, because at one point, because we're not talking to him and we're not telling him, he goes and pulls up his map because he's doubting himself that, am I doing this right?
Yes.
And I was like, oh crap, that's exactly.
Got in his head.
Yeah, he got in his head. That's probably exactly what happens to all of us in some way, is we kind of know what to do. We know what we should be like kind of driving towards, and we go, oh no, that couldn't be right. I must check.
And here's the thing. Fortunately, your son is in a world where there is only support for him to begin to discover vibrational match. But you grew up in a culture and an education system, as most adults, anyone over 25 or even 18, where if you got it wrong, you were humiliated, you were publicly punished, you were mocked, so at no point could you tune in. It was never about tuning into your experience. It was always about reading the authority figure and the education system that was going to punish you if it was a whack-a-mole education system. So you had to abandon your senses and dull them to survive. Yeah. And the more you did that, the more you were rewarded.
Yeah.
And our world, consequently, is the mess it is. Because if we are so dulled that we can't feel that we're polluting our oceans, or we are treating people like things to mow down when they don't agree with us, something's gone terribly wrong. And the only recourse to correct our future is exactly what your son is doing, exactly what I've been teaching, is bring these inner senses back on, because then we feel what's really happening.
True.
And when you're in your head, you don't feel it.
So I have two follow-up questions. Firstly, when such doubt comes, and as you try to reactivate your senses, I'm guessing the doubt will come.
Big time.
What is it that you suggest somebody who is in that mode where they're like, I want to turn back the senses, I'm opening my jaw, and I'm focusing my attention. What is it?
It boils down to that this is not a test. You simply cannot make it a test, because a test puts you back in that old system where if you don't pass it, you're going to pay a negative consequence. It's an exploration. It's an adventure. It's a curiosity. We're learning a new experience, and we're not going to get it right or wrong. We're going to uncover a way to wake up our sensitivity. So we start there. Second, it's got to be fun. Yeah. You can't. If you're trying to check if you're going to be right, you're going to be wrong. I could just tell you psychically, you're going to be all wrong, because you're in your head, and your head can't tune. Your brain cannot feel energy. It can't. They can do surgery on your brain without anesthesia. It has no feeling frequency. So you have to get back into the feeling body, play with it, have fun, and then you have to empty the garbage. The garbage is all those doubts, all those fears, all that indoctrination of the consequence if I don't get it right. So the way to do that is to actually verbally out loud start naming all of your fears, all of your anxieties. I'm afraid I'll be wrong. I'm afraid I'll mess up. I'm afraid I don't have this. I'm afraid this is stupid. I'm afraid that everybody else has it and I don't have it. I'm afraid that I'll be right once and it's random. I'm, just, how it goes. I call that emptying the garbage. And instead of trying to get it right, there's another door to go through. And the door is called I wonder. The minute you just say it right now, I wonder.
I wonder.
What happens is your eyes go up, and did you see something?
Yeah, you kind of relax into it.
You end up in a place that doesn't have answers.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Yeah.
Your ears go up, you're open, and all of a sudden you are available to information. I wonder. The mind goes quiet. And that invites you into the experience. I wonder. I wonder which color feels most attractive to me. I wonder what these energies are. I wonder if this is going to be any fun. I wonder if I'm going to enjoy this. And I wonder is the door into safely exploring and reawakening these senses and getting them activated so they work again.
Would you say, like, when we are helping somebody rebuild their confidence, one of the things that we suggest to them is do the small things so you can build some confidence in your abilities again, especially if you've lost a bunch of times trying to do something and you go, I can't get healthy because, I've tried 17,000 diets already. Like, all right, you don't have to try another diet. How about being healthy one day? Just like today, just today.
Very good. We do learn in bite sizes.
Yeah.
But I feel that it's very important that we're motivated by love. Our heart is the engine. When that heart goes, then the lights are out. When the brain goes, we can still keep chugging along. It's when our heart goes, our spirit leaves. That's the end of the experience and the human reality. So we have to work from the heart engine.
Yeah.
So
tell us more about that.
your heart engine is the home of your spirit, the home of your authentic essence, your true identity. And it's why you need to listen to it, because it tells the truth, which is not sentimentality. That's a different brain construct. The heart is the part that just keeps you navigating toward what it is that will really allow you to be your best self. So the reason people fail to succeed in some of their goals is there's no heart in it. You have to find the heart in the small things. Like say, okay, you want to be healthy. Well, what would you love to be healthy for? One little thing that you would love to be healthy for. If it's I want to dance at my daughter's wedding, or I want to be able to, I just talked to a woman the other day. I've been coaching a woman for 2 years who has just the most debilitating cancer, and she's beating it. But we talk every day, what do you want to be healthy for? Because there's so much information that could demoralize you continuing the treatment. It's difficult, the daily things. And she says, I want to dance at my granddaughter's wedding. And I said, okay, that's good. And is she engaged? No, but she's dating someone that I think she's going to marry. So, okay. And she was given 3.5 months to live, and we're now 2 years into it, going strong. So if love is in it, then your life force is in it, because that's your life force, is in your heart. You have the heart to live for something. You say, I don't have the heart for that, you won't succeed. Your mind, it's not mind over matter, it's a heart over matter. And that heart is that informing guide that is the voice of your intuition. It is the source of all these other senses informing you.
I love that. I found so true to that story, where once you kind of identify what would you love, it just gets easier and easier. Like life overall gets easier.
Your
Creation
spirit
gets easier. Spirit gets easier.
Yeah, it
everything gets
aligns.
easier.
It connects. It expands. If your mind is trying to do something, it's just a fight. It's just a battle. It's a battle with yourself, with others, with life, with the forces. It's a self-serving orientation, where with the heart, it's a connecting orientation.
So as of now, what I'm taking away from this conversation as of now is first to redevelop your intuition. First of all, is to focus on something. Don't just say I want to develop intuition, because it probably would not be a good idea. Too
That's
broad.
a thought.
That's a
That's
thought,
not
yeah.
a feeling. So you probably will forget about it by tonight.
So focus on something. Open up your body to it. Open up your senses, which
But
one of the
really,
tools we talked
why?
about. Yeah.
Why? I want to be intuitive. Why?
Why? Yeah.
Why? I would start right there. And how will it serve me? What are the benefits?
What's the? I know why for me, but is there a common thing that you found why people decide or want to be?
When they come to me to learn, I ask them why.
Yeah.
Because if they don't have a good why and they're just bored, we're not going to succeed. Your heart's not in it. Your mind's just bored. It's like chewing gum. This is just the distraction of the moment. And I won't work with those people because it's a waste of time. But if they have a legitimate why, and it might be I want to develop my intuition for some external conquest. I really do want to get my purpose in life or my business, or I want to improve my relationship. I want to communicate better. That's good enough. But the real why that I look for is that I really want to live an authentic life. I want to be who I am on the inside and the outside in every circumstance, the same person.
Does intuition also help you? I would imagine it does, but I want to check in with you. Does it also help you have more trust in your higher self or in the universe?
Well, there are 4 steps to the intuitive, to awakening and integrating your intuitive faculties. The first is to be open to you just have it. So hopefully in this conversation, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to be current and well-informed and bring in my quantum physics 101. Of course we have it. 2, expect it. I'm going to expect it. It's part of my hardwiring as an intrinsic energetic being. Okay, so I'm going to expect that it can work. I don't have to put it in there. I just have to allow it. Pay attention. The third trust is developing a relationship with a new part of you. So you can't just say, oh, I'm going to trust it. You actually have to create experiences that will build trust. So what I suggest you do is, I have 2 processes, and the first is better than the second, but people are lazy, so they won't use the first. But if you're experimental, you might, which is every time you get a gut feeling, an aha, a sense, a subtle, anything, write it down. You don't have to listen. You don't have to follow it. You're simply acknowledging it. That's it. You're not looking if it's right or wrong. You're just saying, this is something I am feeling. I'm going to give it my acknowledgement. Basically put, you name it, you claim it. Okay? And after 2 weeks, go back and read what you wrote. You'll have evidence. So that's the first, and the evidence is fun.
Yeah.
In fact, I even created a journal specifically to that end so that people can write down, because it's a prompt every day to make you pay attention. But the second one works almost as well, and it's easier, is say it out loud. And then to compensate for not writing it down, put it on your voice notes. We can all record on a phone. Just say it out loud. I'm getting this feeling. People inevitably will say, the second sentence is, I don't know why, because they're going to their logic brain to get evidence. And I say, you do know why. It's your intuition. Just stop needing to say, I don't know why. Because
you don't need to justify this.
Just let it be.
Yeah.
Just let it be. I wonder what this is. I wonder how this will unfold. I'm just going to put this down. I wonder how this will unfold. 2 weeks. Evidence. And then you really understand, well, this is something to trust. We need evidence to feel safe. So that's how you build trust. Plus, it's fun.
Yeah, no, it is. It sounds real fun. Yeah.
It's fun. And if you have a family, ask them. I wonder which way to go. What do you say? What do you say? That's how I grew up in a big family of 7 kids. We played I wonder games my entire childhood. These are psychic sit-ups. I wonder what color car is going to be at the next light.
Did you call it psychic setup or sit-ups?
Sit-ups.
Sit-ups. Oh, okay.
Little sit-ups.
Okay.
We would play. My mom would say, let's play psychic sit-ups. And we would just play. What color car is going to show up at the light? Who's on the phone before caller ID? What song is it going to be? A man, a woman, rock and roll? What's on the radio? You know, we were constantly intercepting energy. We got really good at it.
That's amazing. Can we talk a little bit about?
Yeah.
It's because I have two kids, clearly, so
Yeah.
I'm interested now. I'm like, oh, hold on, what is that? I mean, it was just your mother was just curious
My
about
mother,
this, or
no, my mother was a Romanian refugee in the war. She lost her family. She lost her hearing when she was 12 in a German camp. She married my father as a refugee at 15 and moved to America. So she was deaf, had no education, didn't speak the language, and all of a sudden in a foreign country. So she said it was the best thing that ever happened to her because she didn't have to listen to all the nonsense around her. She was extremely psychic, extremely, as a survival mechanism. And she taught us from the beginning of my life, she said, no matter what you see, no matter what you hear, no matter what people say, ignore it. Listen to your spirit. It'll take care of you because it saved her. So in my family, our value system was that. Always trust your vibes. Listen to your spirit. And let's take our spirit for a walk. Let's go play. So we had no money. She was a stay-at-home mom, although she was a brilliant artist. And my dad sold farm equipment. We had to be resourceful. So our games were psychic sit-ups. Wherever we went, what's going to be for dinner? We rarely went to a restaurant, but before we would go in, whoever could sense what the special was going to be, you got the dessert. You know, it was always a fun reward, but there was no negative consequence. Who's on the phone? That's Dad. But if you were wrong, she'd say, but he's thinking of calling. He's going to call. So we had no fear to travel energetically. And if we ever felt something, she would stick up for us. If a teacher at school, for example, would say, you know, your kid's not paying attention or not doing the homework, she'd say, well, then obviously you're not holding his attention. You've got to be more creative. So I had a very unusual mom.
Yeah.
And we played these games.
But it's a good parenting lesson.
Excellent. Always, always, always validating my spirit. She would say when we were young, coming into, I'd say, Mom, can I go play with so-and-so or go to a party? Mm-hmm. Her response was always, well, before I answer, what does your spirit say? Is it good for you? Mm-hmm. Probably not. Okay, then don't go. I was in second, third grade with these questions, always being mirrored back because that saved her life. It saved her. She wanted us to save ours. And all my siblings turned out to be artists, creative, self-employed, highly intuitive people and healers, but it was natural. So that's how, if you're going to start now, start that same way. Play those games. I even wrote a book called The Intuitive Spark for parents to play these games. One of the things that she would allow us to do, and this is where it's really important, you say, I have this intuitive feeling, but I don't know why. What it's basically saying is, where's the logic, or it can't exist. Okay? So what she would do, and what I did with my kids who are now grown-ups and now doing again, is if we had an uncomfortable feeling for any reason, all we had to do was go squeeze her hand, and she'd say, we gotta go. That was all, no explanation, no conversation. If one of us felt not okay, that's it. That's it, we're out of here. And so we learned that that's the only permission you need. If I feel, to have my mom validate my feelings and have my siblings, the sibling would come and squeeze my hand, we gotta go. We're out of here. This is something's off, and we're not going to stick around to learn why. That's foolish. Yeah. And that's how her life was saved. So that's a tool she taught us. No language. We didn't need language. She was deaf for one. We didn't need language. In fact, one of the things she would say when we were rotten teenagers is, I know what you're thinking. I can feel it. I know what you're doing. I can feel it. And we're like, you're right. So I grew up in a world where the non-physical world was just as real and as communicating as the physical. Your kids feel that way. They're still tuned in, fortunately. We're all designed that way.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful, and that's great parenting advice, and I could use that for sure because
It's
you know
fun
the
for
rational
you.
gets into the way always because we want to make sense and we want to take care of kids, you know, like I mean, in the sense protect them and so forth. But it's so, like you said, natural if just the psychic sit-ups came in a little early for them to just know anyways
We
and make better
played
decisions
psychic
because of
sit-ups.
that.
It's fun.
Yeah,
It's fun. The whole family, and it was democratic. It empowered us as kids to feel like what we felt and thought and sensed mattered.
yeah.
We were respected in that regard. Every one of my siblings were artists and writers and musicians, and my mom just was like, that's who you are. My job is to applaud you. Be the best of that. Instead of ever try to fit in. She didn't fit in, so we were not educated to fit in. We were only educated to trust our vibes and be authentic. That's it. And I think if you do that with any child, you're a good parent.
Beautiful.
You're
Beautiful.
a great mirror.
I'm gonna start doing that now.
It's fun for you.
It is fun, yeah. It sounds really fun. I was like,
It
that's
is
that's
fun.
a really good. And my kids like talking, so I'm sure they'll
Oh,
go. I wonder is gonna be
I
super fun with
wonder.
them.
I
Yeah.
wonder. And have
Really
them come
super
up
fun.
with the wonder game.
Yeah, yeah,
What should we wonder about next? And let
Yeah.
them introduce
yeah.
the goals. And as a traveling family on vacation, it just makes vacations
So much fun. Yeah,
so much fun.
it's beautiful. Well, thank you, Sonia, for that wonderful parenting advice. To round it all out, is there some place where anybody that's listening, watching, can learn more about how to develop their intuition, where you like
Well,
to direct
yes,
them?
you can certainly come to my website, but if you want to start somewhere, I would say start with my book, Trust Your Vibes. And if you're not a reader, get it on audio. Because learning to be intuitive is heightened hearing and sensing of vibration. So sometimes audio is even better than reading. Because you're actually your energetics, inner senses are being activated as you listen. And that'll lead to other things. It's a good start. Trust your vibes.
Trust your vibes. Thank you so much, Sonia. It was
Of
fantastic
course.
talking to you.